Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good
Rabbi.
morning, Rabbi.
Good Tavach, Shavua Tov. We are learning Mishnah's Kesubos, Perek Daled, Mishnah, Perek Daled, Chapter 4, Mishnah Vav, Mishnah 6. Okay. Now, Ha'av Einer Chai B'Mezainos Bitai. I'm just going to read the Mishnah first, and then we'll get through the explanation. Ha'av Einer Chai B'Mezainos Bitai. A father is not obligated in supporting his daughter. Those are the words of the Mishnah. Not obligated to support his daughter. So let's get into the details now. Okay, number one. First of all, just to say to start, is that this applies. This wording that the Mishnah says not obligated in supporting his daughter is not just a daughter; it includes a son. Now let's get the details here. The Mishnah deals only with children who are at least 6 years old. Now again, we're talking about the times of the Mishnah. In the times of the Mishnah, we say that from the age of 6 and up, essentially, there is no obligation. Children under that age, whether sons or daughters, are entitled to their father's support. If he does not support them, the court takes his money, even if he is poor, and uses it for that purpose. So step number one, any child less than the age of 6, the father is obligated to support. And if he doesn't, the Beis Din will seize his property in order to do so. Regarding children over the age of 6, a father is not obligated to support his sons or daughters. Nevertheless, he has a moral duty to do so. If he does not fulfill this duty, the court disgraces him in public until he complies, but they are not authorized to take his property. So that's the next stage. There's a certain stage where, I guess, I don't know the reason exactly why this age more than that age. I'm just going to assume that at times in the Mishnah, age of 6, there was an ability for them to theoretically take care of themselves. However, at the end of the day, as you see, it is considered a very unethical, immoral thing to do, to the point that they would publicly disgrace him for doing so. If he is wealthy enough to support his children without difficulty, the court can even seize his property. Okay, so it breaks down like this. If he's poor, so then under the age of 6, he has to support them. Nothing to talk about. Above the age of 6, if he's poor, he doesn't have to. He's not obligated to support them, but he will be publicly disgraced if he doesn't do so. And if he is wealthy, meaning there is no issue on him, his ability to be able to support them, he has to support them, and the court will even seize his property if he doesn't. So, when you read the Mishnah, it comes across a little bit, a little shocking, and it's still shocking in a certain way, because it's, difficult to think about that kind of possibility. But at the end of the day, it's important to know that when we talk about obligated or not obligated, number one, it's only after a certain age. Number two, it's only if he's poor. To say that we cannot take away his property to support his children. But if he's capable, then we would. So that's the meaning here behind this first line of the Mishnah. Next. Now, the next part of the Mishnah is basically a way of there's a source for this, so there's a way to know this. Zeh midrash darash Rebelezer ben Azai lefnei chachamim b'kerem b'Yavne. This teaching was derived by Rebelezer ben Azariah in front of the sages in Kerem b'Yavne. Kerem b'Yavne was a place where, after the second Beis Mikdash was destroyed, the Sanhedrin, the great Sanhedrin, the highest court of the Jewish people, was located, and it was there that Rebelezer ben Azariah derived what we just said. He made this. He derived this. What did he derive it from? We're going to see he derived it from the Kesuba text. Kesuba is the marriage contract, whatever you call it exactly, the obligations that the husband writes to his wife. And in that, in the text of the Kesuba, we are able to derive this halacha we just said regarding the father not having the obligation to support his daughter. And so to his son. So it's interesting that, was this the exact source of it? It's not clear to me if this was the source of this halacha, or it was just a way of being able to derive or to know it. But I don't know if it was the exact. I don't know if it means this was the exact source. So here we go. Habanim yirshu v'habanis yazainu. These words mean the sons will inherit and the daughters will be supported. Now, the Mishna, the Kesuba does mention daughters being supported. The Mishna does mention that. But what we're going to see soon is that obligation to support daughters, meaning that obligation means the Bezdin would seize his property if he doesn't do so, is actually after his death. If he dies, then his estate must support his daughters. That's one of the conditions of the Kesuba. But the Kesuba reads, V'abanos yazainu. The Kesubos reads, the daughters are supported. There's another part of the Kesuba where it says, Habanim yirshu, the sons inherit. What are the sons inheriting exactly? The sons not. You don't need the Kesuba to tell you the sons inherit the father, right? And the halacha is that if a woman dies, her husband supports her, inherits her. So what exactly is being written in the Kesuba to say that sons inherit? So what it means is like this. I'm going to read to you here from the bottom the way it's explained. If a man's wife dies during his lifetime, any sons that they had together inherit her Kesuba from him. He died before her. Is he paying her a Kesuba? No, she died first. Yeah. But one of the conditions, one of the stipulations in the Kesuba is that if she dies first, her sons will inherit what she would have collected as a Kesuba. This means that when he dies, meaning when the man dies, which if his wife would have been alive, she would have had the right to take X amount of money from the Kesuba. They receive the Kesuba to which their mother was entitled, i.e. the standard payment of 100 or 200 zuz, plus anything else recorded in the Kesuba document. The rest of his property is divided equally among these sons and the sons of any other wife. Okay, a man dies, right? The halacha is his sons have a right to divide up his estate, right? That's what the Torah says. Now, but one of the conditions, one of the stipulations written in a Kesuba is that a man says to his wife that if you die before me, then when I die, your sons automatically get from my estate what I promised you in the Kesuba. Whether it's a standard 100 zuz or 200 zuz, depending if she's a virgin or not, or any other stipulations made in the Kesuba about payment that she gets, like called Taisvis Kesuba, what's added to the standard payment of the Kesuba, all that right away goes to them. Before they divide up the estate, they get that. They get that amount. And then the rest of the estate is divided up amongst the rest of the sons. But there's something called Kesubos B'nin Dichrin, the Kesuba of the male sons, which means that those sons will inherit what she would have gotten as a Kesuba. So the Mishna to the Kesuba text says, Habanim yirshu, it says the sons will inherit, as we just explained. And then it also says, right after that, it says it together with that, V'habanos yazainu, and the daughters will be supported. So the fact that the Kesuba text, which was made by the sages, has them both together, teaches us Ma habanim einam yarshin ela achar misas ha'av. Just like the sons do not inherit, they only inherit after the father's death. Av habanos einan nizaynas ela achar misas avien. So too the daughters are only supported, meaning there's an obligation to support them only after their father's death. So this part of the Mishnah, the Mishnah began saying a father is not obligated to support his daughter. But Elizabeth Azariah said you can know that from the text of the Kesuba. Being the text of the Kesuba put together the fact that the sons inherit their mother, which is after the father's death, we know that what comes together with that, what's mentioned together with that in the Kesuba, which is that the daughters are supported, also means after the father dies. But beforehand, they're not. So an obligation to support them, again, if they are above the age of 6 and he is poor, is only going to be after he dies. The Kesuba has to be, once he dies, the stipulations of the Kesuba, the agreement of the Kesuba has to be met. And therefore the daughters will be supported. It will come out of his estate. And if the brothers try to stop it, she takes them to the Bezdin, to court, and the court's going to seize the amount of money that she needs. And when we talk about the fact that she is supported, supported means just to get into the detail. A daughter has the right to live in her late father's house and be supported by his estate until she is betrothed or becomes a begeris. This whole halacha that the Kesuba promises that she has to be supported is when she is, again, until she is a begeris, until she's 12 and a half. That's part of the deal. When she's 12 and a half, the deal of the Kesuba is already done. And it means she's going to get supported with food and she'll have a place where to live. That's what it means she is supported after his death. So again, just to sum it up here, the point is that a father is obligated, even if he's poor, to support his daughter above the age of 6 after his death. That's part of the Ksuba deal. And that stipulation goes until 12 and a half. While during the father's lifetime, if he's poor, if she's under the age of 6 or any of his children, boy or girl, under the age of 6, he has to support them, even if he's poor. And if he doesn't support them, Bezdin will seize his property in order to support his children. Once they are above the age of 6 and he's poor, the Bezdin cannot seize his property, cannot force him to support them, although they will probably disgrace him if he doesn't. But if he is wealthy, meaning he's able to support them, he has the money to support them, he can regularly support them. He's not poor, he can regularly support them, then he has to do so even over the age of 6.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Amen.
Okay. Now, continuing with the Chofetz Chaim. The Chofetz Chaim was talking about when is it possible to actually relate Rechilas to someone? When is it possible to tell someone that someone else may be potentially, may hurt him? So he said that it has to be for a constructive purpose. They want to go into a partnership. You want to warn this person not to go into the partnership with him because of the fact that he may harm him. So the first 2 conditions mentioned by the Chofetz Chaim was that before you decide that this person is going to harm him, you better know for sure. Number 2, don't exaggerate what you're going to tell this person about him. Number 3, you can only have intention for a constructive purpose, which is to prevent damage from this person who you're telling it to. Not because of any dislike that you have for the other person. And this third detail, this third condition, there's something else that's included. Not besides what we just said, that your intention has to be not because of dislike for the person, but because you're trying to help the other person. You got to stop and think, is it going to help what I'm going to tell him? Because it's very common to happen, that even if you tell this person who wants to go into a partnership, this guy you want to take into your business, he's not good. It's not going to be good for you. He ain't going to listen to you anyway. You'll still take him into the partnership. And then afterwards, when they're in a partnership and now things are going bad, what's the person who you wanted, who you would have considered telling it to, and you told it to him, but he didn't listen. What's he going to say? He's going to tell his partner, he was right. When he told me I shouldn't go into a partnership with you, he was right. Oh, that's great. And that's only going to make problems even worse. For these kinds of people, that he knows that they're, number one, not going to listen. And if they're not going to listen, they may actually go and tell the person what this person said not to go into the partnership. There is no permissibility to tell him. By doing so, you are going to cause them to speak rechilas. So if at the end of the day, you have what to say to warn the person not to go into partnership, but he's not going to listen, and at the end of the day, he's going to get burned. When he gets burned, it's very possible he's going to say to the other guy, so-and-so was right for telling me not to go into partnership with you. Then there is no permission, there's no permission to say it to the other person, because it only causes him to speak rechilas. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi.